Yeah, the reason why we watching women's basketball is not just because of one person. It's because of me too, and I want y'all to realize that.
For the first time in history, WNBA games will be played in the United Center. The Chicago Sky will host the Indiana Fever at the UC.
The Chicago Sky, proudly led by their fiery rookie Angel Reese, just pulled off a move so bold it's got the entire basketball world buzzing like a hive of caffeinated bees. They've abandoned their usual digs at the Wintrust Arena, a perfectly respectable 10,000-seat venue that's been their home since 2018 for the colossal United Center. If you're not from Chicago, let me set the stage. The United Center is no ordinary arena. It's a cathedral of sports history, the very court where Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen turned the Bulls into a global dynasty, racking up 6 NBA championships in the 90s. It's where Dennis Rodman's wild antics electrified crowds, where Derrick Rose's MVP season lit up the city, and where concerts from U2 to Beyoncé have packed the rafters. With a capacity of 20,735, it's a venue that screams prestige, legacy, and big-time stakes. For the WNBA to plant its flag there, that's not just a logistical shift, it's a seismic declaration. So, why this unprecedented leap? 2 words that have become a lightning rod in women's basketball: Caitlin Clark. Yes, the Chicago Sky are rolling out this 20,000-seat palace specifically for matchups against Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever. This isn't some casual upgrade or a one-time stunt. It's a deliberate, calculated play to capitalize on the tidal wave of hype surrounding one player. The Sky aren't just moving games, they're chasing the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, a rookie who's turned the WNBA into a cultural juggernaut in her very first season. Think about it. The Wintrust Arena's cozy confines have served the Sky well, hosting their games with a loyal but modest crowd. But Caitlin's arrival? It's blown the doors off what modest even means. The Sky know that when she steps into town, 10,000 seats won't cut it. 20,000 might not even be enough. Meanwhile, Angel Reese, the Sky's own breakout star and a force of nature in her own right, has been vocal about pushing back against the Caitlin-centric narrative. In a now viral interview after a game against the Fever, she leaned into the mic with that signature confidence and declared, "People aren't just watching because of one person. It's me too. I'm bringing something to this league, and I'm not gonna let anyone forget it." It's a bold claim, and she's got the game to back it up. Her rebounding prowess and relentless energy have made her a fan favorite and a stat sheet stuffer. But here's where it gets messy. The Sky's actions don't quite align with Angel's words. If this WNBA surge is truly a collective effort, why aren't all their home games getting the United Center upgrade? Why not move their clashes with the Las Vegas Aces, the defending champs, or the star-studded New York Liberty? Why is it only Caitlin's games that warrant this VIP treatment? The answer is as clear as a Chicago winter sky. Caitlin Clark is the main event, whether everyone likes it or not. It's like the Sky are hoisting a neon billboard over Lake Michigan that flashes her name in 50-foot letters. They're not subtle about it, and why should they be? The league is ablaze. Attendance records are shattering, and television ratings are soaring, and one rookie is holding the match that's setting it all off. But this isn't just about a venue switch or a single player's hype. It's about a seismic shift in women's basketball, a moment where the WNBA is stepping out of the shadows and into the spotlight. So buckle up, because we're about to unpack how Caitlin Clark is shaking the foundations of the league, stirring up rivalries, ruffling feathers, and rewriting the game itself. This is her story, and the WNBA's wild new chapter. Caitlin Clark didn't just stroll into the WNBA in 2024. She crashed through the gates like a wrecking ball wrapped in a highlight reel. Drafted first overall by the Indiana Fever, she took a franchise that had been languishing in the league's basement, missing the playoffs for 7 straight years, and turned it into a full-blown phenomenon overnight. But to grasp the sheer scale of what she's done, we've got to rewind the tape to her days at the University of Iowa, where she didn't just play basketball, she redefined it. At Iowa, Caitlin was more than a player. She was a cultural earthquake. She smashed the NCAA's all-time scoring record, yes, for both men's and women's basketball, piling up 3,951 points over her 4-year career. That's more than Pete Maravich, more than anyone who's ever laced up in college hoops. Her weapon of choice? The Logo 3, a shot so audacious it felt like she was daring gravity itself to stop her. She'd pull up from 30, 35, even 40 feet, and the ball would splash through the net with a consistency that left announcers speechless and defenders scrambling. She averaged 31.6 points per game in her senior year, dished out 8.9 assists, and shot 37.8% from deep, turning Iowa into a national obsession. The Hawkeyes made back-to-back NCAA title games in 2023 and 2024, and every game felt like a primetime event. Sellout crowds, soaring TV ratings, and a buzz that spilled over into every corner of sports media. So when the Fever won the draft lottery in December 2023, the anticipation was palpable. Could this college supernova translate her game to the pros? Spoiler alert, she didn't just translate it, she amplified it. From the moment she stepped onto the court in her Fever jersey, Caitlin was a one-woman revolution. Her stat line reads like something you'd cook up in NBA 2K with all the sliders maxed out. She clinched Rookie of the Year with ease, led the league with 8.4 assists per game, dishing out passes so precise they seemed to defy physics, and averaged 19.5 points per game on 41.7% field goal shooting. Her three-point game stayed lethal, hitting 38.7% from beyond the arc, often from distances that made coaches wince and fans leap out of their seats. Her home opener against the New York Liberty on May 16, 2024, was the first clue that something extraordinary was happening. Gainbridge Fieldhouse, the Fever's home in Indianapolis, welcomed 17,274 fans, a sellout crowd that turned the place into a cauldron of noise and energy. Picture it. The lights dimmed, the Jumbotron flashing Caitlin's highlights from Iowa, and a sea of fans, many in freshly minted Clark jerseys, roaring like it was Game 7 of the finals. It wasn't just a basketball game. It was a rock concert, a coronation, and a statement all rolled into one. And it didn't stop there. Fever home games became the toughest ticket in town, selling out consistently throughout the season. Before Caitlin, the team averaged a paltry 4,000 fans per game in 2023, barely half filling their 18,000-seat arena. In 2024, they averaged 16,757, over 400% growth, and resale prices on StubHub soared into triple digits for even the nosebleeds. But stats and sellouts only tell half the story. Caitlin brought a swagger to the WNBA that's hard to quantify, a fearless, almost reckless confidence that made every possession must-watch TV. She'd launch a 35-footer with a defender in her face, smirk as it swished, then sprint back on defense like it was nothing. Her no-look passes, threading through double teams to find cutters, became instant viral clips, racking up millions of views on TikTok and X. She played with ice in her veins, unfazed by pressure, unafraid to take the big shot or make the risky play. For a Fever franchise that had been stuck in neutral, she was a jolt of adrenaline, a spark that turned Indianapolis into the beating heart of women's basketball. And this was just the opening act. The real chaos was brewing league-wide. Here's where the story takes a turn from impressive to downright wild. Caitlin's gravitational pull isn't just an Indianapolis thing. It's a league-wide frenzy that's rewriting the WNBA's geography. Teams aren't just selling tickets when she comes to town. They're scrambling to upgrade their venues like they're hosting a sold-out Taylor Swift concert. The Chicago Sky's move to the United Center is the headliner, sure, but it's far from the only example of the Caitlin Clark effect turning arenas into battlegrounds for extra seats. Let's start with the Atlanta Dream. On June 21, 2024, they welcomed the Fever to their usual home, Gateway Center Arena, which seats a modest 3,500. But when ticket demand spiked, fueled by Caitlin's presence, they made a last-second pivot to State Farm Arena, the 17,000-seat home of the Atlanta Hawks. The result? A staggering 17,608 fans showed up, shattering the Dream's previous attendance records and nearly tripling their season average of 6,200. That's not a crowd, that's a movement. Then there's the Washington Mystics, who saw the writing on the wall months in advance. They announced in March 2024 that their June 7th game against the Fever would shift from the 4,200-seat entertainment and sports arena to Capital One Arena, where the Wizards play. Outcome? A sellout crowd of 18,789, the largest single-game attendance in Mystics history, and a far cry from their typical 5,000. The Las Vegas Aces, no strangers to big crowds as two-time defending champs, still felt the Caitlin bump. Their July 2nd matchup against the Fever at T-Mobile Arena drew 16,891 fans, a 40% jump from their 2023 average of 12,000. Even the Minnesota Lynx, playing in the cavernous Target Center, saw their June 9th game against the Fever push attendance to 15,342, well above their norm. These aren't flukes, they're a pattern. Wherever Caitlin goes, arenas swell, ticket offices scramble, and fans, new and old, flood the gates. The numbers paint an even clearer picture. Before 2024, the WNBA's league-wide attendance hovered around 6,600 per game, solid, but hardly headline-grabbing. Enter Caitlin and the Fever's games, home and away, are averaging over 15,000 fans, with some cracking 18,000 or more. The Fever's home average alone jumped from 4,000 in 2023 to 16,757 in 2024, a 319% increase that's rewriting the franchise's history books. League-wide, attendance is up 48% year-over-year, with Caitlin's games driving the bulk of that surge. Teams are moving venues preemptively now, announcing upgrades months before tip-off because they know her name alone guarantees a sellout. But it's not just about bodies and seats, it's about the ripple effects. Merchandise sales are exploding, with Caitlin's number 22 Fever jersey topping WNBA store charts within weeks of her debut. Nike couldn't keep her gear in stock, and secondary markets like eBay saw prices triple. Local economies are feeling it too. Bars and restaurants near arenas report record nights when Caitlin's in town, with some estimating a 20 to 30% revenue bump. In Indianapolis, hotel bookings spike on Fever game days, and downtown businesses are hanging Clark posters to lure the crowds. Economists are even starting to quantify the Caitlin Clark effect, with early estimates suggesting she's injected tens of millions into local markets. What's wilder still? This isn't just a basketball story, it's a cultural shift. Families who'd never watched a WNBA game are showing up with homemade signs. Kids are mimicking her logo threes in driveways. Social media's flooded with Caitlin content. Posts about her games regularly top 1 million impressions, and her TikTok highlights rack up views faster than a viral dance trend. Teams aren't just riding this wave. They're banking on it, betting that her pull will keep growing. And trust me, the madness is only beginning. Not everyone's raising a glass to Caitlin's takeover, though, and that's where this story gets its spiciest twist. Enter Angel Reese, the Chicago Sky's electrifying rookie and Caitlin's longtime foil. This isn't a fresh beef cooked up in the WNBA kitchen. It's a simmering rivalry that's been marinating since their college days, steeped in high-stakes showdowns and enough trash talk to fill a highlight reel of its own. Let's rewind to where it all began, the 2023 NCAA championship game, pitting Reese's LSU Tigers against Clark's Iowa Hawkeyes. That game was a classic, two titans battling for the crown, with 11.83 million viewers glued to their screens. Caitlin was her usual self, torching LSU for 30 points, including 6 three-pointers that had the crowd gasping. But Angel? She was the X factor, grabbing 10 rebounds, scoring 15 points, and sealing LSU's 102-85 victory with a tenacity that couldn't be ignored. The defining moment came late in the game. As LSU pulled away, Reese strutted toward Caitlin, waved her hand in front of her face in a John Cena-inspired "You can't see me" taunt, then pointed to her ring finger, championship swagger in full effect. Caitlin brushed it off with a steely glare, but the internet exploded. Memes flew, hot takes multiplied, and the rivalry was officially born. Fast forward to 2024, and these two are now WNBA rookies, carrying that college heat into the pros. Angel's been a revelation for the Sky, averaging 13.6 points and a league-leading 12.9 rebounds per game. Double-doubles so routine they're practically her calling card. She's a rebounding machine, a paint dominator with a flair for the dramatic and a personality that lights up press conferences. Caitlin, meanwhile, is rewriting the record books with her scoring and playmaking, turning the Fever into a playoff team and the league into her personal stage. Both are stars, no question, but their paths couldn't be more different, and that's where the tension crackles. Angel's not here for the Caitlin coronation. After a June 1st game where the Sky edged the Fever 71-70, she grabbed the mic and dropped a bombshell. People aren't just watching because of one person, it's me too. I'm bringing eyes to this league, and I'm proud of that. It's a fair flex. Her social media following rivals Caitlin's, her endorsement deals with brands like Reebok are stacking up, and her Bayou Barbie persona has fans chanting her name. But here's the rub. The Sky's decision to move only Caitlin's games to the United Center undercuts her argument. If Angel's impact is equal, why aren't her matchups against Aya Wilson or Brianna Stewart getting the 20,000-seat treatment? Why is it always Caitlin's name triggering the upgrades? The stats back up the disparity. Fever games, home and away, are averaging 15,000 plus fans, while Sky games without Caitlin hover around 9,000. TV ratings spike 50 to 70% higher when Caitlin plays, per Nielsen data. It's not that Angel isn't a draw, she is, but Caitlin's pull is on another planet. And that stings, especially for a competitor like Reese who thrives on proving doubters wrong. She said it herself. I've been counted out my whole life, and I keep showing up. No one's counting her out here. She's a legit star, but the spotlight's tilt toward Caitlin is impossible to ignore. Their playing styles fuel the fire too. Caitlin's a long-range assassin, a 6-foot guard with a silky jumper and a passer's instincts that make her a nightmare to guard. She'll hit you with a step-back 3 from 30 feet, then zip a behind-the-back pass for an easy layup. Angel's the polar opposite, a 6-foot 3 forward who owns the paint, snagging rebounds like they're hers by divine right and finishing with power around the rim. It's finesse versus force, perimeter versus interior, and every matchup feels like a clash of titans. Fans are eating it up. Social media is a war zone of Team Caitlin versus Team Angel. X threads debate their stats endlessly. Caitlin's 8.4 assists versus Angel's 12.9 boards. TikTok edits pit their highlights head-to-head, racking up millions of likes. Their June 16th rematch drew 2.25 million TV viewers, the highest-rated WNBA game in 23 years, and the United Center announcement for their next clash only poured gas on the fire. This isn't just a rivalry, it's a cultural event, a storyline that's keeping the WNBA in the headlines. And it's making the league a ton of money, which brings us to the next chapter. Let's talk cash, because the WNBA's coffers are overflowing, and it's no coincidence this gold rush hit in 2024. The league just locked in a $2.2 billion media rights deal. Yes, billion with a capital B, spanning 11 years and dwarfing every contract that came before it. To put that in perspective, their previous deal, signed in 2016, was worth $25 million per year, a respectable sum, but pocket change compared to the $200 million annually they're now banking. This isn't a gradual climb. It's a rocket launch, and Caitlin Clark's fingerprints are all over the booster. Broadcasters saw this coming a mile away. ESPN, CBS, NBC, and Amazon Prime Video didn't just bid on the WNBA. They fought for it, smelling the Caitlin Clark hype like sharks sensing blood in the water. Her college games at Iowa averaged 11.9 million viewers in her final season, peaking at 12.3 million for the 2024 NCAA title game loss to South Carolina. Networks knew she'd bring that audience to the pros, and they weren't wrong. Fever games are averaging 1.2 million viewers per broadcast, with marquee matchups, like her May 16th debut against the Liberty, hitting 2.1 million. The June 16th Sky Fever clash? 2.25 million, the highest in over 2 decades. Compare that to the 2023 WNBA Finals, which drew 550,000 viewers per game, and you've got a 218% leap. That's not growth, that's a takeover. It's not just TV, either. The digital boom is unreal. WNBA League Pass subscriptions are up 67% year over year, with streaming spikes tied directly to fever games. Social media is a goldmine. The league's Instagram followers jumped 30% in 2024, and Caitlyn's highlights, those logo threes and no-look dimes, regularly top 5 million views on TikTok alone. X engagement for WNBA content is up 150%, with hashtag Caitlin Clark trending after every big game. Broadcasters aren't just airing games. They're building entire segments around her, from ESPN's Clark Watch to Amazon's pregame hype reels. Sponsors are cashing in too. Caitlyn's personal brand is a marketer's jackpot. She's inked deals with Nike, rumored at $28 million over 8 years, including a signature shoe, Gatorade, State Farm, Buick, and Panini for trading cards. Her jersey sales outpaced every player in the league within a month, forcing fanatics to triple production runs. But it's not just her. Angel Reese has Reebok and Hershey's, Aya Wilson's got Mountain Dew, and Sabrina Ionescu's Puma deal got a boost. The league itself is swimming in new partnerships. Google, AT&T, Deloitte, and Scheme signed on in 2024, injecting millions into marketing and player programs. Forbes estimates the WNBA's sponsorship revenue doubled from $50 million in 2023 to over $100 million this year. WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert laid it bare in a July press conference. Caitlyn's brought a new level of excitement, and it's showing in attendance, ratings, and revenue streams across the board. She's not exaggerating. Before 2024, the WNBA was a steady drip of interest, carving out a niche but rarely breaking into the mainstream. Now, it's a flood, with Caitlyn as the battering ram smashing through the dam. Attendance is up 48% league-wide, ticket revenues soared 93%, and the league's valuation, once pegged at $1 billion, could double by 2026, per industry analysts. This is a financial renaissance, and Caitlyn's the spark. But big money brings big noise, and not all of it's applause. Here's where the plot thickens. Caitlyn's meteoric rise hasn't come without a fight, and the WNBA's newfound spotlight is casting some ugly shadows. As her star climbs, a chorus of skeptics, players, execs, and pundits has emerged, desperate to downplay her role in this boom. Washington Mystics owner Sheila Johnson fired one of the first shots in a June interview with DC News Now. It's more than one player. The league's full of stars who've been building this for years. She's not wrong about the talent. Aya Wilson's a 2-time MVP, Breanna Stewart's a scoring machine, and Sabrina Ionescu's a 3-point wizard. But here's the counterpunch. Arenas don't double in size for Wilson or Stewart. The Mystics moved their fever game to Capital One Arena and drew 18,789, yet their next game against the Aces stayed at their 4,200-seat home, pulling 4,800. If it's about the league's depth, why the Caitlyn-only upgrades? Then there's the thornier critique: race. Some argue that Caitlyn's explosion, a white rookie in a league where 70% of players are black, is less about talent and more about bias. Former WNBA star Cheryl Swoops stirred the pot on her podcast, Queens of the Court, saying, "We've had incredible players for decades, but now it's all about this one. Why her? Why now?" The subtext was clear. A white player getting this shine feels suspicious to some. It's a heavy charge, and it's sparked heated debates across sports talk shows and X threads, with hashtags like #WNBA bias trending alongside #Caitlin Clark. Let's break it down. The WNBA has never shied away from celebrating its stars, regardless of race. Lisa Leslie, Tamika Catchings, and Candace Parker, all black icons, drove the league's early growth. White stars like Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi became legends, but their rookie years didn't spark this kind of frenzy. Bird averaged 6,000 fans per game in 2002, Taurasi 8,000 in 2004. Caitlyn's pulling 15,000 plus in 2024. Is it race? Or is it her game? Those 30-foot bombs, the no-look passes, the fearless flair that's tailor-made for the TikTok era? Nielsen data shows Fever viewership is up across all demographics: Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, not just one group. Her highlights dominate social media globally, from Iowa to Indonesia. This isn't a race stat, it's a skill stat amplified by a media landscape that didn't exist for Bird or Leslie. Still, the resentment's real. Veterans like Swoops and Shiny Aguamike have hinted at frustration. Decades of grinding by lifers are being overshadowed by a rookie's hype. "We built this house," Aguamike said on ESPN, "and now someone's getting the keys without laying a brick." It's a fair gripe. The WNBA's rise is a collective triumph. But Caitlyn's not stealing shine. She's redirecting the spotlight, bringing new fans who discover Wilson, Reese, and Ionescu along the way. The league's mainstream now, and some can't stomach who's holding the torch. That tension's not going away, but neither is Caitlyn's momentum. Caitlin Clark isn't hitting the brakes, and neither is the WNBA. They're flooring it into a future that's gleaming with possibility. The Fever are building a dynasty around her, stacking their roster like they're assembling the Avengers. Natasha Howard, a former MVP with a nose for rebounds, ditched the Dallas Wings to chase Caitlyn's pinpoint passes. Sophie Cunningham, the Phoenix Mercury's sharpshooting firecracker, signed on and dubbed herself Caitlyn's hype woman. "I'm her Sabrina Carpenter to her Taylor Swift." Veteran DeWanna Bonner, a three-time champ with a Connecticut Sun, joined too, gushing, "Her vision's unreal. I've never played with anyone like her." Add in Caitlyn's 8.4 assists and 19.5 points, and this squad's a contender. Vegas oddsmakers already have them at plus 600 for the 2025 title. Indianapolis is doubling down, snagging the 2025 All-Star Game for Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Imagine it. Caitlyn, in her home arena, raining threes and threading passes to the league's elite, with 18,000 fans losing their minds. It's not just a game. It's a spectacle, a chance to smash the WNBA's single-game attendance record, currently 22,076 from 1998, and cement Indy as Hoops Central. The Fever's 2024 playoff run, their first since 2016, was a teaser. 2025 could be a championship march. Teams league-wide are leaning in too. The Chicago Sky could turn those United Center nights into mini Super Bowls. Picture Caitlyn versus Angel promos, halftime concerts with Chance the Rapper, and courtside celebs hyping the crowd. Other franchises are following suit. The Aces are eyeing bigger Vegas venues. The Liberty are pitching Barclays Center upgrades. The Caitlyn effect isn't fading, it's growing, and smart teams are capitalizing, turning games into events that hook fans for life. The bigger win? Caitlyn's expanding the WNBA stage. Rookies like Cameron Brink, Sparks, and Rickea Jackson Sparks are getting noticed. Veterans like Jonquil Jones, Liberty, are shining brighter, and the talent pool's deepening. Top high schoolers are now picking the WNBA over the NCAA, citing Caitlyn's path. Attendance could hit 10,000 league-wide by 2026, per Engelbert's projections, and a new $3 billion media deal isn't out of the question. International expansion, games in Europe or Asia, feels imminent, with Caitlyn as the global draw. So here's the million-dollar question. Will the skeptics keep grumbling, or will they grab a piece of this golden era? The WNBA's never been hotter. Ratings, revenue, and relevance are at all-time highs, and Caitlyn's the catalyst. She might snag MVP in 2025, break assist records, or lead the Fever to a title, or all three. One thing's certain, she's not here to coast. She's here to rewrite the game, and the league's riding her wave into uncharted territory. Buckle up, this is just the beginning.